Hello and welcome to News Central Television. I am Lekon Obanjo. The top stories at this hour. Nigeria joins the rest of the world to commemorate International Women's Day. Federal High Court reassigns IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu's case to a new judge. DR Congo announces $5 million reward for information leading to arrest of key leaders of M23 rebel group. Details to come your way shortly. In Africa and across the world, today has been marked as International Women's Day. International Women's Day, usually observed on March 8, is a global day celebrating the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. The day also marks a call to action for accelerating women's equality and liberation, along with the women's rights movement. International Women's Day gives focus to issues such as gender equality, reproductive rights, and violence and abuse against women. International Women's Day originated from labor movements in Europe and North America during the early 20th century. The earliest version reported was a Women's Day organized by the Socialist Party of America in New York City on February 28, 1909. The holiday became a mainstream global holiday following its promotion by the United Nations in 1977. The UN observes the holiday in connection with a particular issue, campaign, or theme in women's rights. In the meantime, President Bola Tinubu has extolled the virtue of women as the world celebrates this year's International Women's Day. In a statement signed by him on Saturday, he praised the resilience, brilliance, and indispensable contributions of Nigerian women, describing them as the strength that powers the country. The president said his administration is committed to dismantling obstacles, expanding access to finance, and also ensuring equitable opportunities in governance, agriculture, and every sector. The theme for this year's celebration is tagged Invest in Women, Accelerate Action. Still on Women's Day, stakeholders in Plateau State say education remains a critical key in empowering the girl child to become that which she wants to be in the future. This assertion was made against the backdrop of the commemoration of International Women's Day across the world on Saturday. News Central's Chizoba has more in this report.
International Women's Day is a yearly event which serves as a wake-up call for putting issues affecting the girl child and women on the front burner of global discourse. Gathered here are young women brainstorming and driving home this cause under the auspices of the Center for Youth Participation, Dialogue and Advocacy in Africa to ensure women are on the right path to be able to contribute their quota in improving society. Doing this begins with empowering the girl child with education.
Without education, without empowerment in terms of education, you've already limited that girl from attaining her goals, from becoming a leader as she should be. So when you hear women campaigning about things that seem irrelevant, it's because it affects them in a very deep or impactful way.
Apart from strengthening legal and policy frameworks against gender-based violence, there is also the need for budgetary backing by governments.
We call on the Nigerian government, policymakers, civil society organizations, and private sectors to take immediate concrete steps to accelerate gender justice and inclusion. Lip services is no longer enough. Bold actions must be taken now and direct.
Nigeria needs to rise up to the occasion of increasing the number of women participation in public offices, as seen in some other countries of Africa and the world at large.
In the whole of Africa, Nigeria stands low in terms of women's representation and governance. Unlike countries like Rwanda, Botswana, Kenya, even in South Africa, where we have between 68%, 58%, and 45%. So in spite of the so-called affirmative action, we still have only about 3% out of the 35% of women representing in government and decision-making policy process.
While these submissions here continue to seek acceptance in our society for a better world, all stakeholders have been urged to continue to put in their best to accelerate action. In Plateau State for News Central, Chizoba Anyuwi.
And as Nigeria joins the rest of the world to mark the International Women's Day, several women in Abuja converged on the FIFA Goal Project facility for a novelty football match to raise awareness about the challenges women face in the country. The event was a collaboration between the FAME Foundation, the Ministry of Youth Development and the National Sports Commission. Ahmadin Uyi tells us more.
For many of them in attendance, the International Women's Day presents an opportunity to raise awareness about the challenges women face in the country using football. The teams, comprising mainly women, were all kitted up with an aim to entertain, but also to pass the message on the plight of women in Nigeria.
Every day a woman is beaten, every day a woman is cheated, every day a woman is denied her rights, every day at least a woman globally is denied the access to leadership. Every day a woman at least in the world is denied access to decision making. Every day at least a woman is abused. So the figure it keeps on going on, going up daily, daily, yearly and all of that. So we have to keep talking about it. We can't be seeking for women's support, seeking for women empowerment, seeking for gender equity and equality cannot be overemphasized. It is our right. It's something that we should talk about.
The Minister of Youth Development says that women in Nigeria will not be left alone, and those in sports will be catered for, irrespective of where they come from. Also, the Executive Director of the FAME Foundation says that sports can be used to champion the cause of women, thus the use of football to highlight their challenges.
We want to bring them up from all areas, from whichever areas. And we have also realized that what they do in Kano is different from what they do in Kaduna. What the women in Ondo are doing in most of the senatorial districts, which they can swim, they can do, is different from each other. So we want to harness all these skills and put it together and let people that really knows how to do this thing best to do it. And if you know anything about Malam Diko, is you know how to do it best. And for a young and vibrant youth like me, then we are going to hit the road and make sure that the women get a very good representative in whatever we do.
Sport in Nigeria is the only, I say it again, unifying factor. When, we are diverse in the country, we have our uniqueness in terms of language, spoken, tribe, region, and all of that, even religion. So the only thing that unifies Nigeria, that unifies us is sports. This is why, as an organization, we are very intentional about the usage of sport for development.
Many will be hoping that the message sent today, in the light of the International Women's Day celebration, which is calling on all citizens to give women an opportunity to excel, will resonate loudly across the country. In Abuja for News Central, I am Ahmadin Uyi.
And now to discuss the significance of this day, we are joined by author and general manager, Dominion Broadcast Group, Ronke Giwa Onofunwa. Thank you so much for joining us on the news.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. So first, let's actually identify for you the challenges that women face and what the enablers are.
Well, we can see what's happening in the news. The challenges are there. It's very obvious. Women need support. I think first and foremost, women need to be allowed to do whatever it is they need to do, whether it's in politics, whether it's in the boardroom, whether it's at home. So we need men to ally us. We need people in government to, ensure that there are laws and there are representation of women as well, so that there are laws that can help women and girls across Nigeria. So the challenges are obvious. However, we just need people who can stand as allies to ensure that women can succeed wherever it is they want to operate.
So would this mean that in this modern era, we have not really seen so much support, most especially for the male folk, when women face issues around gender equality, opportunities, support, and every other thing that would need them to thrive?
Well, unfortunately, the thing is, there's a lot of lip service. It's unfortunate. We're going to see a lot of organizations, a lot of, people do the International Women's Day gesture. However, when rubber meets the road and we need people to ally us when we're being sexually abused, harassed, etc. There's crickets, there's silence. So it's beyond just coming on one day in the year and doing the, the gesture, but actually standing up for women, allowing women to speak, allowing women to breathe. So we've had enough of the lip service. We want more action, less lip service.
For women, what is actually limiting them? I'm talking about self as a gender. Is there something that limits them, that prevents they themselves from actually, spreading their tentacles?
Patriarchy all across the country and all across the world. So women have come a long way, to be honest. We now find women in different spheres of life. We do have women in politics, but we can do better. And that's why we have this time of the year. It's a tug on our sleeves. So women are limited because over the years, we've been told you should be seen and not heard. You're being prepared for your husband's house. Stuff like that is very limiting. Or when you see a lady or a girl in STEM, you are told, oh, you want to be an engineer, how are you going to balance your home? Everything always has to do with, balancing a home. But let women be. So I think the limitation has come from all the years of being told we cannot, we should not, this is not your place. But women are ready to take space wherever it is they want to. And I think that it is time to break the limit and allow women to rise to wherever they'd like to operate and to succeed and to thrive, basically.
Okay, so what advice would you give to religious organizations, custodians of tradition, because we know that there are cultural barriers, there are religious tenets that actually stifle the growth of women in a community? How do you think that they can help the female folk break that barrier?
Absolutely, because culture is not a bad thing. We love culture and we love religion. However, we must not use these things to manipulate women into submission or manipulate women to keep them in one space. God loves women. God created women. And I know that everything God created, he wanted it to thrive. Everything he created, he said, this is good. So I believe that when God created women, he wanted women to thrive as well. So we must stop using culture and manipulation as a tool to manipulate women, to stay underneath, allow women rise. God wants women to rise. And so those manipulative tactics to make women, stay underneath, I think must stop in churches, in mosques, in religious homes. I mean, everywhere. We must end that manipulation, those manipulation tactics to subdue women, allow women to thrive. Because when women thrive, the world, the community thrives.
Okay, so before I let you go, Ronke, I'd like to find out, do you think that women have what it takes to change the narrative within the political and the economic sphere when it comes to decision-making and, of course, growing a country?
Without any doubt. I know I was actually reading something online. It's proven that apparently women make better decisions. Well, you can read it up. It actually is out there. And I've seen women in leadership as well. Women do fantastic, in spite of the things that we have to deal with. Every month, when we have to have children, when we have to try and balance the home, which is a myth in itself, women still thrive and women still succeed. There are women I can call, across different spheres of life who are doing phenomenal things in spite of the limiting beliefs and things that try to hold us back. So I believe that women can make great decisions. Women can rule countries, run countries. Women can lead. If you can do it at home and multitask, give birth to children, run the home, trust me, the boardroom is a piece of cake.
Well, I know about that multitasking thing, so of course, I understand. Ronke Nguema, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us on the news.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
We'll stay with the news, but then we'll go on a short break. When we return, Federal High Court reassigns IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu's case to a new judge. Do stay with us for more details. We'll be back. Many thanks for staying with us. We'll tell you that the Federal High Court in Abuja has reassigned the terrorism trial of Nnamdi Kanu, leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, to a new judge. This decision follows a request from Kanu's legal team for Justice Binta Nyako to recuse herself, citing concerns over a fair trial. Kanu's lawyer, Aloy Ejimako, confirmed that the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, Justice John Soho, reassigned the case after intervention from the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Kudirat Kekereekun. Kanu's legal team expressed gratitude to the Chief Justice for her swift action and reaffirms that Kanu is prepared to stand trial while maintaining his innocence. The case, which has been ongoing since 2021, involves a 7-count terrorism charge brought by the federal government. To discuss this, we are joined by a public affairs analyst, Catch Ononuju. Mr. Ononuju, it's nice to have you around. Can you please unmute your device? Okay, a bit of a scramble there, I must say. But then I'd like you to say, okay, so I'm just going to ask you the question, hoping that you'll be able to attempt it. Now, this Nnamdi Kanu case is dragged on for too long. What difference will these case reassignments make? Oh, dear me. I guess we might have to revisit this conversation, hopefully before the expiration of this news bulletin. Definitely will come back to you. Away from that anyway, legislative activities at the Nigerian Senate this week was dominated by the fallout between Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan's altercation with the President of the Senate, that is Godswill Akpabio, which culminated in a suspension from protests at the National Assembly to the submission of the Senate Ethics Committee's report. The matter took center stage throughout the week's proceedings. The Central's National Assembly correspondent, Sagir Ibrahim, brings us the details in this piece.
To speak from there, that is the order of the Senate.
Sir, Order 10 on privileges. Order 10 on privileges.
Distinguished Senator Natasha.
Any senator may rise at any time
can the
to
Sergeant
speak
at Arms,
upon
please,
a matter of privilege suddenly
take her out of the
arising.
Senate.
The controversy began on February 20th when federal lawmaker Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan engaged in a heated exchange with the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, over a new seating arrangement in the chamber. Her refusal to relocate to her reassigned seat prompted the Senate President to refer the matter to the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions. Days later, the matter spilled outside the chamber as pro-Natasha protesters stormed the National Assembly gate, demanding Akpabio's resignation and an independent investigation into her allegations of sexual harassment.
We call for an independent investigation, and while it is going on, sir, please let the Senate President step aside so that they can allow a proper investigation to be conducted.
Shortly after, pro-Akpabio demonstrators countered with demands for Akpoti-Uduaghan's suspension and an official apology to the Senate.
She just apologized to the Senate. She should submit herself to probe. She must be probe. Nobody is above the law. So going to court will not help matter.
The Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions commenced an inquiry into Akpoti-Uduaghan's conduct on March the 5th, but the Kogi senator failed to appear before the panel, who also rejected her petition on sexual harassment against Akpabio.
The petition she presented today is actually dead on arrival. And I say that because it runs contrary to Order 40, subsection 4.
Despite her absence, the committee proceeded with its findings and submitted its report recommending a 6-month suspension for Akpoti-Uduaghan for violating the Senate rules and bringing the chamber to public disrepute.
Her behavior on the 20th of February 2025 was unethical and unbecoming of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria by refusing to uphold the moral sanctity of the Senate and of the hallowed chamber.
The President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, put the committee's recommendations to a voice vote, which received overwhelming support. However, an amendment moved by Oju Zokalu representing Abia State sought a review of the committee's recommendations, altering the suspension of Akpoti-Uduaghan's legislative aides on the basis that they had done nothing wrong. This allows them to continue receiving their salaries and allowances during the period of her suspension.
It will be wrong to punish aides that have not committed any offense. Their aides will receive their allowances. The aides of Natasha is not Natasha.
Akpabio used the platform of the International Women's Day celebrations in the Senate to reaffirm his commitment to gender equality and pledge to continue advocating for women's rights.
Tinkering with the act to enable women, the Electoral Act, to enable women to have solid say in the parliament will do so. Condemn all issues of sexual harassment that are not fake. We must tell women not to use tears to look for sentiment when they are making false accusations.
With Akpoti Uduaghan now suspended for 6 months,
sustained.
observers say the controversy is far from over as public debate continues to unfold. In Abuja for News Central, I'm Sagir Ibrahim.
In the meantime, a delegation of senators from opposition political parties visited suspended Natasha Akpoti Uduaghan, senator representing Kogi Central, at her home. The delegation was led by Siraki Dixon, a former governor of Bayelsa State. Dixon, a member of the Senate's Ethics and Privileges Committee that recommended Akpoti Uduaghan's suspension, shared a photo of the visit on his social media pages. Akpoti Uduaghan was suspended on Thursday for 6 months after she refused her new seat in the upper legislative chamber. The dispute escalated into allegations of sexual harassment by the Kogi senator against Senate President Godswill Akpabio. Away from that, we tell you that Global Budgeting and Transparency Organization, the International Budget Partnership, says it has launched a new strategy to support Nigeria's federal government in its long-term drive for transformative reforms in the agriculture sector, particularly for smallholder women farmers. Speaking at the launch in Nigeria's federal capital, Abuja, the country manager of IBP Nigeria, Yinka Babalola, says that Nigeria needs to move beyond temporary budget increases in agriculture that can be reversed by future governments. Our correspondent Joshua Imarai reports.
At a time when Nigeria is undergoing various fiscal and monetary reforms, critical issues such as gender policy in agriculture and public resource governance have taken center stage.
We are a learning organization, and we soon realized that to ensure people get the services they pay for through taxes, levies, and fees, we need to consider the public resource governance system in its entirety. And so this means that we should move away from the traditional PFM system to consider all stakeholders required to deliver services to Nigerian citizens end to end.
The country director of Pro-Transparency Organization, the International Budget Partnership Nigeria, is calling on government at all levels to pursue sustainable reforms for equitable resource assets beyond annual and temporary budget increase.
So we're adopting what we call a systems change strategy, which is changing the whole system, also using gender as well, and what we call intersectionality, which looks at people with disabilities, maybe single women, people that belong to minority ethnic groups, also elevating their needs and their desires and ensuring that the system works for them and delivers services for them.
Nigeria's Minister for Budget and Economic Planning, who was also at the event, also emphasized the need for public budgeting to tackle inequitable resource distribution and recovery challenges.
There is an increasing need for public budgeting to recognize that challenge and to ensure that more attention is being paid such that budgets are catalytic to mobilizing more resources and ensuring that the gender imbalance is de-risked by the way money is spent and allocated.
Other stakeholders also weighed in on IBP's new strategies launch.
The event came at a very right time where the findings from this research can be used to push for advocacy in ensuring that there is equitable collection of taxes and that taxes, especially from women in the market, informal sector, are being collected based on their income and are being assessed against other criteria such as balancing household responsibility, unpaid care work, amongst others.
Agricultural stakeholders here say that for Nigeria to achieve transformational change in equitable resource distribution, it must pursue solutions that ensure federal allocation of public resources. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imanayi.
Let's now tell you that thousands of families, particularly displaced persons, rely on cutting down trees to sell firewood or charcoal, despite the long-term consequences of deforestation. For many families in conflict-affected northeastern Nigeria, survival takes precedence over environmental concerns like climate change. News Central's Morikawa examines the impact of large-scale deforestation and the importance of reforestation.
One of the lasting consequences of war is environmental degradation. Finding a single tree in many affected areas is now a challenge. Security forces often clear trees to improve visibility against enemy, while survivors of war cut down trees for firewood to meet their basic needs.
Bawo ma kowanne mota da mota da rima samari wannan 15-20 ma bawo ma mutum da in ce 1000 ko kuma 800 samari wannan kullum sai sun fita.
Baranzu bana umara zulum perfeso shango donguna isu blok soka andero diriza kalza get soko dai ka ne batsin ba na da tsoron galar wazana.
Flooding remains one of the most devastating consequences of climate change, with severe impacts on children, forcing many to miss school when disasters strike.
Policies should be made that if a tree is cut down, 10 trees need to be planted in order to replace that one tree that has been cut down. And if a tree has to be cut down, it shouldn't be cut down directly from the roots. It should be at least shedded off, at least so that it will grow a little bit better.
Climate change would destroy us if we refuse to act now. And when we make an imagination with regards to how paradise is described to us, paradise would not be paradise without making the mention of gardens. And where are gardens? You will see lush trees. So when we talk about climate change and the solutions that we will proffer, people speak about planting trees. Trees are not just to protect us from the climate, are not just to serve as windbreaks, but trees are comforting to the soul.
A major challenge is that thousands of families now see firewood and charcoal as necessities rather than problems. Although efforts are being made to promote alternatives like briquettes, experts argue that such measures are insufficient.
Education is key, creation of awareness and enforcement of existing law. We have all this law in place. The problem is enforcement and implementation.
We are going to restore all the green zone in Borno State, that's one. Two, we are going to train people on climate smart agriculture in order to complement the depleted agricultural production that happened 2024 as a result of devastating flooding. And that we also intend to provide a source of livelihood for people, because an idle man is a devil workshop.
Recent changes in rainfall patterns in Borno State have led some communities to resort to prayers for rain, but experts stress that planting more trees is a crucial solution.
Desertification is a major threat to communities in the Lake Chad region, as it is causing the loss of fertile land and the displacement of communities. Hence, experts advocate sustainable planting of the trees for better and protected environment.
In Maiduguri for News Central, Morikawa.
You're watching News Central now. We're going on a very short break. When we return, we'll tell you if there's a religious approach to dealing with climate change. So stay with us. We'll be back. Earlier on the news, we told you that the Federal High Court in Abuja has reassigned the terrorism trial of Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, to a new judge, something that Nnamdi is thankful for. So to help put this in proper perspective, we're being joined by a public affairs analyst, Catch Ononuju. Mr. Ononuju, it's nice to have you around. I hope the network will be favorable this time. Mr. Akach, can you please say something?
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, good. We can hear you now. So earlier on, I asked that, I said that this case around Nnamdi Kanu was dragged on for too long, but now that the case has been reassigned to a new judge, is there any difference that we are going to see in this trial?
Yes, I believe so. I think now that we have a brand new judge, it signals the seriousness of the federal government to actually try a brand new strategy. You know, I think President Buhari and his gang had inclusive in their strategy.
Mr. Ononuju?
The use of, yes, I am here, I can hear you very well.
Go ahead.
If you can hear me, I mean that the strategy being deployed by the Buhari administration is totally different from that being told currently by the Tinubu administration. And so there is a need for a brand new judge and a new courtroom. Since I believe they want to go straight now to a negotiated release, and we can move forward. The government, after all, is not that very strong on the revelations that there are people who did undermine the country. If we've not seen such strong move on the issue of terrorism, which has been revealed from the U.S. Congress, I don't think there's any reason to hold Nnamdi Kanu, because he has not done more than those who have connived to actually undermine the country's democracy, as we've had revelations in the U.S. Congress. I think this is time now to end the Nnamdi Kanu trial and let us have a negotiated peace for everyone to rest.
All right. Now, Kanu accused Justice Binta Nyako of bias. Any idea when and where the judge might have erred while presiding over his court trials?
Well, you could see that simply there to do everything that the Buhari administration wanted, and I don't think they were ready for a trial. So since we have seen that the issue leading from the rendition of Mr. Kanu back to Nigeria, all caught up in Lego quagmires, I think this is a very good chance for the Tinubu administration to right now deal with this thing decisively and resolve this peacefully and let Mr. Kanu go. But I also believe Mr. Kanu and those on his side should understand that there's a need for us to have a negotiated release in the same framework as Bodejo, Bello Bodejo, as Sasari Dokubo, as Owazirike, and that means when he goes, the issue of the Biafra Nana agitation should not rest, because if you look back in the East, you will see that a lot of the proxies who were working for the Biafra agitators weren't actually working honestly for the Biafra issue. We can now see that these were all covert operators working with the Buhari administration. Even those doing the unknown government sting operation, we've now found them to have all gone to sleep the minute Buhari administration came to an end, telling you that there is a lot of truth in the words of Brigadier General Abacha in saying if the violence sustains for more than 48 hours, the government has a hand in it. So I believe the government's accusation from general public and those who know that they are involved in the staging of the non-government sting operation simply tells you a lot around the Nnamdi Kanu trial is just a joke. So I think the government should let him go, but then he should agree that there will be peace and he will simply, like other people, go back home, and then everything that came with the Buhari administration should be considered to have come to a close. So that's what I'm thinking.
All right, Mr. Kach Ononuju, it was nice talking to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
Away from that, religious leaders in Nigeria are being urged to use their influence to advocate for stronger climate policies as the country grapples with bursting environmental challenges. Now, the call was made at the Interfaith Dialogue on Climate Change in Abuja, where faith leaders, civil society groups and climate advocates stressed the urgent need for action. The summit, organized by Connected Development, highlighted the growing threat of climate change in Nigeria, driven by pollution, poor waste management and environmental degradation. Faith leaders called on citizens and policy makers to step up efforts in tackling the crisis.
Effective policy and legal frameworks with accompanying sanctions and incentives need to be put in place to tackle these problems. Individual citizens and pressure groups, including religious bodies and civil society organizations, must take responsibility for what happens to the present and future generations of human beings and other natural species by advocating for a new environmental ethics and a new environmental politics in our country, Nigeria, and across the world.
The duty on what needs to be done is beyond fact of science and scientists. We definitely need their input, but we also need a moral and ethical call to action. So what science provides data and helps us in the analysis of our challenges, they provide the motivation for even the scientists to act with responsibility, or leaders and politicians and everybody to act with a sense of justice and compassion.
We think the time is right because Muslim brothers and sisters are practicing Ramadan and Christian brothers and sisters are in the Lent period. And we believe that it's important to bring stakeholders in the faith sector. Why? Because we're losing track of the implication of taking the messages to the people to take the right actions. And not because we don't have the legal and regulatory framework. So we believe that because Nigeria is a religious country, and we also believe that faith brings about justice.
And away from the west of the continent to Central Africa, we tell you that the Democratic Republic of Congo has announced a $5 million reward for information leading to the arrest of key leaders of the M23 rebel group. According to the Ministry of Justice, the reward applies to anyone who provides information that results in the capture of Corneille Nangaa, Bertrand Bisimwa, and Sultani Makenga. The three were convicted in absentia and sentenced to death in August 2024. The M23 rebels, backed by Rwandan forces, have taken control of several areas in eastern DRC, including the provincial capitals of Goma and Bukavu. In addition to the reward for their leaders, authorities are also offering a $4 million bounty for information on their accomplices. Now, we tell you that General Brice Oligui Nguema, the strongman of Gabon since the 2023 coup, has officially thrown his heart into the ring for the April 2025 presidential election. He submitted his candidacy file at the Ministry of Interior, marking a significant milestone in his bid for the top job. In a statement, General Oligui Nguema expressed his happiness, saying he is now eligible to engage in politics and occupy the supreme position thanks to a favorable response from the Ministry of National Defense.
Je suis heureux aujourd'hui de vous informer que le ministère de la Défense nationale a répondu favorablement à ma mise en disponibilité. C'est dire qu'aujourd'hui et depuis le 27 février 2025, je suis apte à faire de la politique et même occuper la fonction suprême. Il n'y a pas des raisons à créer un parti. Le temps ne nous le permet pas. Mais comme tous les autres, j'irai en indépendant. Je mettrai en place une plateforme que nous avons appelée le mouvement des bâtisseurs. Et au sein de cette plateforme, j'invite les associations, les partis politiques, les syndicats, la jeunesse, l'élite intellectuelle, tous ceux qui m'ont soutenu depuis le début de la transition, de rentrer dans cette plateforme et qu'ensemble, on puisse bâtir ce pays et aller de l'avant. Je vous remercie.
Outside of Africa, but still talking about International Women's Day, women in Kharkiv, Ukraine, gathered to pay tribute to female soldiers who have lost their lives defending their country. The demonstration was a poignant display of solidarity and respect, with attendees waving banners and holding a minute of silence. A flower installation was also adorned with placards highlighting the sacrifices made by female soldiers. The event was a powerful reminder of the crucial role women play in Ukraine's defense. International Women's Day is a holiday in Ukraine, and this year's commemoration took on a special significance amidst the ongoing conflict.
The Так, я вважаю, що замість квітів можна було придбати військове спорядження і решту засобів, які б задовольнили потреби наших військових захисників-захисниць.
У нас є тільки один день, коли ми про це можемо говорити голосно, але про це потрібно пам'ятати кожного дня. Бо жінки – це половина нашого суспільства. І потрібно говорити про те, що вони роблять, про те, які вони, і як вони захищають, і що вони роблять для того, щоб наша країна була вільна і незалежна.
Інших, але, звісно, сьогодні зібралось набагато більше дівчат для того, щоб показати, що це свято, воно не тільки про красу і взагалі не про весну, а про те, що як і багато тисяч жінок вийшли 8 березня колись дуже давно на акції, так і ми сьогодні маємо на це право, так би мовити, і ми його використовуємо активно. Ну і взагалі додатково це все таке вшанування, воно просто співстало з цим святом.
Germany's Conservatives, led by Friedrich Merz, and the center-left Social Democrats have reached a landmark agreement to form a government. This coalition aims to revive and rearm Europe's largest economy through significant investments. Merz, who won the February 23 election, announced the successful completion of exploratory talks alongside Lars Klingbeil of SPD. The parties will now proceed with formal talks to solidify their coalition government. The proposed government plans to focus on economic growth, climate protection and social welfare.
Ich kann Ihnen mitteilen, dass wir vor einer knappen Stunde die Beratungen zwischen CDU, CSU und SPD abgeschlossen haben. Wir haben ein gemeinsames Sondierungspapier erstellt und wir haben in einer ganzen Reihe von Sachfragen Einigkeit erzielt. Ich will, bevor ich auf Einzelheiten zu sprechen komme, sagen, dass dies alles in den letzten Tagen in einer ausgesprochen guten und sehr kollegialen Atmosphäre stattgefunden hat.
In business, Nigeria's Minister of Arts, Culture and Tourism and Creative Economy, Hannatu Musawa, has emphasized the need for intentional efforts to educate and empower women, ensuring their financial independence. Speaking at the 2025 Ring the Bell for Gender Equality Symposium and closing gong ceremony in Lagos, she underscored the importance of inclusive policies that create economic opportunities for women. The Central's business correspondent, Perpetua Fasani Peter, reports.
As part of the global commemoration of International Women's Day, the Nigerian Exchange Group and Central Securities Clearance System hosted the 2025 Ring the Bell for Gender Equality event in Lagos, Nigeria.
An inclusive economy is a thriving economy. A diverse boardroom is a stronger boardroom, and an empowered woman is a catalyst for national prosperity.
I'd like to appreciate the men that have come to support the women. But more importantly, as women, you must pull one, lift as much as you can.
Women just don't even have access.
Delivering the keynote address, Minister Hannatu Musawa called for collective action to bridge the financial and educational gaps that hinder women's progress.
This lack of financial inclusion and educational inclusion prevents female-led businesses from scaling and contributing more significantly to economic growth. Overcoming these barriers requires deliberate effort from government, businesses, and society at large.
The ceremony's highlight was the symbolic ringing of the closing gong, reinforcing the commitment to gender equality in the financial and corporate sectors.
What I try to do now is honestly teach as many women and as many people as possible that your business is you need to see more than what is just in front of you. You need to think global. A lot of the time they invest in less risky assets, which is why to a large extent you see less women playing actively in the capital market.
I would say to everyone in this room, invest in women. The woman mentioned that we like to save. As women, we don't want to take too much risk. But for us to close that 152-year gap that my colleague mentioned, we need to put our capital to work.
The Ring the Bell for Gender Equality campaign is an initiative led by the World Federation of Exchanges in collaboration with central counterparty clearinghouses worldwide. Now in its 11th year, the campaign promotes workplace diversity and inclusion while advocating for women's rights and economic empowerment. The theme for 2025 is Ring the Bell for All Women and Girls, Rights, Equality, Empowerment. In Lagos, for News Central, I am Perpetua Fasome Peter.
And that's all at this hour. But before we go, we look at our top stories again. Nigeria has joined the rest of the world to commemorate International Women's Day. Federal High Court has reassigned IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu's case to a new judge. We also told you that DR Congo has announced a $5 million reward for information leading to arrest of key leaders of M23 rebel group. You can send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on your screen. And don't forget to follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV, where you can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. I am Lekon Onobanjo. Many thanks for watching.